before we get going. All right. Hello and welcome to Spitfire. This is episode 49 or 27 in season 2. My name is Brice. Of course, I'll be bringing you through the topics this week and what we're talking about. Joining me here, Chris Tunn, who got his PC fixed just a little bit late.
5 minutes ago. 5 minutes ago.
But
can we let's put the seasons dead in the water, I think.
Yeah.
Just
We'll
go episodes. Just episodes. I think it makes much more sense and it makes it sound like we'd be doing it a lot longer.
Fine. Episode 49. But more importantly than all of that, our guests for this week. Returning once again, of course, Richard Lewis is joining us on here because you couldn't have a journalism episode without Journalist of the Year. How are you, Rich?
Not too bad, as I said, up all night, funnily enough, working on a story that I won't talk about on your broadcast. Not really to do with esports anyway. Who gives a fuck? I've got a podcast straight after this, so it's going to be like a busy day. Plus, I made a bunch of fucking promises I got to keep to my own stream and my own community about how I'm going to play games all this week, and I haven't streamed for 2 days. So all my sons are drying up, and I'm breaking promises like the people I expose in my journalism. So I guess I'm the cunt. Other than that, fine.
All right, well, we'll get into some of that as we go. And of course, joining us here from Esports Insider. I don't know if you're as busy, Adam, but how are you?
I'm not too bad. You could tell by the bags under my eyes. I'm also basically running on zero sleep, and I'm actually recording a podcast after this as well. So yeah, not too bad, but also a little bit busy.
Gotta get that hustle, man.
All right, fantastic. So this episode has been in the works for a little while. It's something I did want to do, and it's become ever more relevant after what happened last week in Call of Duty. So we are going to talk about some bias towards Call of Duty content and stuff, and I will talk about that as we go through, but also journalism and esports in total. Let's get this out of the way then. Hot topic coming straight in, and it's something that I really want to talk about is backlash from criticism. And this wasn't even criticism towards Team Envious. And we saw Deserto and Hastro go at each other this week. Team Envious and obviously Deserto. Mike was going at it, and it sucks, right? For me anyway, this whole thing sucks. I really like the pair of them. I've known Hastro for a very long time. I've been to the Team Envy house. You know, when it was I think it was in North Carolina, in Greensboro, all that sort of stuff, right? I've known Hastro for a long time, a lot of time for the guy. Same thing with Mike, right? You know, I've known Deserto for a long, long time. And it all kicked off over what I thought was a really quite innocuous article. The worst thing is, I didn't even agree with the article. I even tweeted saying I don't agree with these rankings. No. Not as much as Hastro did. This is if you haven't seen it, Hastro basically accused Deserto of favoritism. They weren't happy with their portrayal of Optic over all other teams in Call of Duty for a long time. And it kind of blew up there. So let's get your initial impressions of what you saw last week. Let's start with you, Adam, because I know Rich has got a lot to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of just seems to me as if he's kind of spitting his dummy out. I don't know whether it was like the last straw and he's like, well, we need to be number one with him winning scrims. But I mean, like the game's not been out long, you know, people have been late to start actually scrimming as well. So, and then obviously the meta developing and there's still patches coming out. So it's a fairly harmless article. And also, like, who really gives a fuck what one person thinks in terms of like where your team ranks? Like, the only thing that matters is where you're placing in Minnesota next month. So to me, yeah, I think Mike hit the nail on the head quite often in what he was saying, and it just seemed like a bit of petty bullshit. But we also love a bit of COD drama, so. Yeah. I don't know.
I was just pissed off. It was like an hour after our episode last week. I was like, well, fucking typical timing, isn't it?
It's interesting, right? Just before I let Rich unleash here, because like I said before, right? I know Rich is winding up. I can see it. Here's the problem. Like, obviously, you know, I have some expertise in Call of Duty and power rankings, all that sort of stuff. I've done power rankings before, and I can agree in the fact that I didn't think the article was right. And I think a lot of people, you know, the general consensus is they thought the rankings were a little bit off, especially with lack of sample size, which is something very, very important when you've got all new rosters. So any power rankings is going to be massively subjective. And it wasn't, I think one of the other problems was it wasn't as clear that it was an opinion piece because it didn't have the person whose opinion it was front and center. It was portrayed more as like an official Deserto rankings, which you can kind of give more credence to and may have more sway with the community and how you view your teams, because that's what I first thought it was when I clicked on it. It's only after the clarification that no, it's an opinion piece, it's this person's opinion, which, you know, I really don't like power rankings on that basis. You know, if you don't have that sample size and that history in any kind of esport, so I can understand that side of it. I'm not entirely sure it was necessary for the blow up like Stro had, and obviously he ended up backing down and apologizing at the end. But Rich, obviously you saw it kick off. We were talking before the show. What was your take on the whole situation?
Well, first, Brice, I'll just say it's always tragic that. The beautiful are so stupid. I'm talking about you here. You're an incredibly good-looking guy, but obviously you've got that himbo vibe going on, because the idea that a ranking should ever have to put forward that it's an opinion, when of course all rankings are completely subjective anyway, and anybody with, you know, a relatively just cursory understanding of journalism would grasp that. Is you know, it seems to me you should never need to qualify it. The reason people do rankings in media and the reason people do top tens and all this other stuff that they click on is because it drives people up the fucking wall, because everyone's opinion's different. But that is what drives debate. That is what drives clicks. Yeah. So I absolutely will not allow you to sit there and say.
Well, that. I will come back into that. I think there are degrees, including a good friend of yours. Take for instance, take Thorin's power rankings.
Exactly.
He justifies his with the reasoning behind it. There is a reasoning for it. I read it before on the CSGO ones when I've done research into CSGO. And he has it about like a team beats at this point in their career, he'll weigh it more heavily in this regard, right? There is a formula that he uses to base it.
Sure, but then
and in power rankings I've done personally in the past for this, I've had player opinions. I've taken actual votes and used it to build that player opinions. I think that is a different opinion piece to just purely subjective going, I think this team is better for no real logical reason, maybe just going off which players I think may be better off very few sample size. That's
sure, and all that says to me is, you know, if for whatever reason you don't think the person has put sort of a quantitative or qualitative, you know, any sort of thought process into the ranking, it just means the rankings are worthless. You should just sort of give it a glance and move on with your time. It's certainly not worth a tantrum. The reality is like I say, all sort of listings, rankings, all of these things that are hugely popular to drive debates, certainly around sports, they are opinion-based. And a power ranking, even more so, because a power ranking isn't even an official definitive standing. It's a power ranking is more ephemeral because it's based on short-term changes. What you're saying is, at the moment, I think this team's so hot right now based on this and this and this. A power ranking is even more meaningless in the grand scheme of things than an actual official ranking. So
yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So listen, look, we'll keep it all genial. As I said, I do love you and I love being here.
No, it wasn't that. I just think there's degrees of it, Rich. That's the difference I'm getting at here. Like for me, if I ever read one of these things, like I want to know how it's going. Like I don't know, if I go and ask you know, some Joe Blogs off the street to make a power ranking, they could rank them on fucking color scheme, right? That doesn't have as much credence as like an expert trying to figure it out using some sort of method. And with that Discerno article, like the reason I didn't agree with it is, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't see any real method behind it that I could logically agree with. Like,
sure. I guess and that's fine. And what you did, which what Hastro didn't, is you sort of tweeted that out going, yeah, I think based on, you know, my understanding as another expert in the field, I disagree with this power ranking. That's exactly what a power ranking is designed to do. So no harm, no foul. What you absolutely can't do is have some sort of fucking, you know, mental breakdown because you believe your team should be ranked higher in essentially a meaningless opinion-based power ranking. So I'll get to that because, you know, Mike, this isn't his first offense by any stretch of the imagination, and we'll talk about his rich history when it comes to dealing with journalists and the media. And I want to preface all of this by just saying, me and Hastro beefed for about 2.5 years because of some shit he said about me and my journalism. He messaged me out of the blue after the Esports Awards and said, like, let's squash that beef. I don't know if he'll want to now, because the reality about Mike is, when he was a player, he used to be this incredible, humble guy, this guy that had very good understanding about how to get to where he needed to be. And he used to work with the media. I remember I want to say 2010 or 2011, it might have been. Maybe as late as 2012, I'm not too sure. But anyway, he did an interview with Cadred, a PC-based website that only covered Call of Duty 4. And he came and did an interview with a junior journalist called Jeff Kim. and he was very grateful to reach out to a new audience because he understood the importance of that. Now, unfortunately, what's happened is Mike's ascended to this sort of plane where he's now getting VC money and his ego is just out of control. And that's all this was. This was a guy who thinks that, if he's not being talked about in only glowing terms, it's wrong, it's false, he can't take any criticism anymore. And he had a fucking tantrum on that basis. It's really embarrassing. And then if you think about where that tantrum led to, he made an outrageous allegation, which was that because Hex had been a one-time investor in Deserto, something I now think he's divested himself from for the reasons that, could be construed as a conflict of interest. He out and out accused the publication of being dishonest in its opinions to drive that business relationship, which is an outrageous allegation. And he just threw it out there absolutely without any regard for what that says reputationally about the publication. People get sued for things like that. So the reality is this is a guy that, for somebody that's meant to be standing up against journalists and being the arbiter of truth, he told a provable, demonstrable lie because he was ass-pained that they didn't rank his team first. That's how pathetic a man he's become over time. And if you're a long-term fan of Hastro, I imagine you're really disappointed seeing these episodes continually flare up as he tries to battle the fucking media. There's a guy right now that talks a lot about fake news. Funnily enough, he has a better case for it than Mike does. But that's the line of petulance and behavior that we're talking about here when we talk about the kind of decline of Hastro.
Yeah, I can get that. It was an interesting blow up, and I can agree with you there. It was for me. I honestly thought it was kind of like out of character for him. Obviously, you've had more experience with him in the journalist regard than I have, but it also kind of bleeds into this other thing I want to talk about tonight as well. And it's not just journalists; it's also things like analysts and casters as well. Get the side of this blowback that seems so common in esports. Any journalist has probably got it at this point. If you put out like a poll, an opinion piece, a rankings, like take this for instance, Spitfire did, I think 5 episodes ago, we did our list of rankings in various regards, right? Not 100% serious, made it very, very clear. And it was on like, because we did like team rankings, and we did silly things like which is the most attractive team, which one you'd like to go for a beer with. It obliterated my mentions because of how serious. Yeah. And we had a panel. I used a panel to do it. It wasn't like just me. It was a panel.
You tweeted the actual results in the end.
and the blowback we got from it, people like just like full on insulting. I'm like, come on, it's a joke, right? We've even pointed out this is the metrics we used. This is everything we've gone for. We had a panel go through it. I even tweeted out when I put it out, I said I don't agree with it, but this is how it came back.
No, Brice, it's your fault.
Exactly. And it's got to be something you guys have experienced before. It must be one of these things like anytime you've got to write about or doing a piece on any popular organization, TO, publisher, player, there's a little voice in the back of your mind going, well, I'm about to get it for this one.
Well, I had it with the whole Optic thing when Infinite was negotiating its deal with IGC with the Immortals Gaming Club. So obviously, I think it was Jacob Wolf that broke it, but then I kind of pushed it along with the sale being imminent and such. And it's actually my Twitter header now. It's someone saying, yeah, as if Adam Fitch would ever break this kind of story, blah blah blah, and then it kind of gets a bit worse. But that's Reddit for you. I don't know. I think as long as you're doing it for the right reasons and it doesn't and it's factual, then it doesn't fucking matter what people think or say, really. You just kind of expect it at a certain point.
Do you ever think... Go on,
I was just going to say, it used to be a consideration for me because I remember back when I was like, because I came to Twitter kind of in 2010, and that was kind of in the wave of like StarCraft. So, and some of the stuff I was writing about then was, these huge organizations. Like I'm still blocked by Evil Geniuses, for example, on Twitter. Because I covered this Pizza GG thing, which was they did this big promotion with Papa John's. And first of all, I said Papa John's are a terrible sponsor to have because they were trying to influence an election. They were telling their employees, if you vote for Obama, we'll probably have to fire you because of the changes to healthcare regulation that'll come in with Obamacare. So I said that's awful because think about the people who work in pizza shops. It's us. It's gamers. It's people of our age range, not mine. I'm a boomer. But But anyway, so they got pissed off about that. And then 2 years later, when they hadn't kept promises, I was still banging on about it, going, what happened to those fucking promises? You told us this was the biggest activation in esports history, and it was absolutely essential. Everybody bought fucking Papa John's pizzas for a month, and we did, and then we didn't get any of the shit you promised us from it, right? So I was butting heads with these huge personalities that had huge followings. And what I found was that it feels really bad in the moment because reputationally, you're being destroyed by somebody. You've got 3K followers on Twitter. They've got, 300,000. And people just immediately believe them on the popularity basis. But then what I found was, eventually, there's only so much they can do to fuck with you. It's like you just listen to absolute fucking dribblers, like just telling you, like, you're making it up. And when you're proven right, they go away. They're just not there.
You never hear from them ever.
You'll never see them again. And you're right. And then the next story comes. Oh, and it's more morons. There's an abundance of them. But and they'll never apologize for criticizing you, trying to make your life miserable and mobbing up on you. They'll never do that. But the reality is they can only fuck with you through the prism of social media. They can just call you a liar, but you're not. They can say that you're wrong, but you're not. So how does this affect me? And what I found was by beefing with a lot of these people, my Twitter views started going up because obviously there is a silent, I don't know if it's a majority or a minority, I couldn't tell you the numbers, but there are people out there who do appreciate being told the truth. And once you get established as the guy that does that, people will fucking follow you and listen to what you've got to say. And unfortunately, we don't have a cure for moronism. We don't have you can't go to a doctor and get injected and not be an idiot. So you're just going to have to deal with that shit. And the popular esports personalities know what they're doing when they make those denials. Hastro knows what he's doing when he causes these flare-ups. He's leveraging his fan base to attack you, and they think you'll acquiesce, you'll relent, and you'll shut up and you won't do it again next time. Well, no, actually, I love butting heads with people. So this is fucking brilliant. This is my wheelhouse.
See, it's one of the other things that's curious for me, and I don't know how often it happens in kind of more mainstream journalism, but it seems to always be the case in esports journalism. And it's one thing I very much hate. And it's the same story every single time. I'm sure you've both done it. You get a story, and you reach out for comment or whatever, and it's an instant denial. You know you've got enough sources. You put the story out anyway. Then it's a public denial. 2 months later, it's true, and these organizations, and it does seem to be primarily organizations, admittedly, just nothing comes of it. It may be a transfer rumor. It seems to happen a lot with transfer rumors as well. Like journalists will get wind of it, put it out, and be like, no, it's never happening. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Oh, by the way, we signed him.
I don't like. Sorry, I'll just preface that with a COD side of things. But Crone's actually in here as well. The CDL Intel account gets so much shit, but all he is doing is saying stuff that people have said to him. Like even players are like, "You're stupid, and he's like, "Well, he's just relaying information." But yet, these fan bases are just so ingrained in their heads that they can just say, "Oh, well, no, you're wrong. It's definitely wrong." Whereas he's just, it's especially when people are just passing things on to a point, just reporting on something somebody said. And then people are still.
What's his accuracy record like? Because obviously,
I think it was 100% this year, wasn't it? This season,
it was pretty good.
And that's the thing. He's never claimed to be a reporter or a journalist. He's literally just passing on information.
Yeah, and that's something I'm always super nervous about, right? Like these leak accounts where people are leaking shit for clout, and there's no journalistic oversight, and they're doing it anonymously. I actually think there's some, I'm not speaking specifically about this one guy. If he's got a good record, there might be a reason why he needs to preserve his anonymity or whatever. But I think there's something potentially irresponsible about that. And there's no public recourse if somebody does something malicious, malevolent, potentially damaging to people's reputations. For all you know, you see, this person could have a legitimate beef and a legitimate bias, and because they're not public facing, there would be no way to redress that. So I always tell people, like, these people who leak stuff for clout, which, by the way, is a journalist with oversight who double checks sources and has to go through an editorial process. What they'll often do is they'll put something out that we've been working on, and they get to beat us to the punch because they don't have to fucking check with anybody because they don't give a fuck. Doesn't matter if they're wrong. What you gonna do? You're still going to follow them on Twitter for the next time that they leak something. So yeah, whereas we have a much more meticulous regimen, but generally what we'll then do is try and find out whether it's true, flesh it out, but we don't get all of the sort of traffic and attention that these sites do. It'd be great to just publish all the shit I've heard in esports. I just love to fucking do that, by the way. The stuff that would get out there as a result of that would be unbelievable, but it would be grotesquely irresponsible. So, I think people should proceed with caution when they follow those types of accounts for sure.
It's funny you say that, because before Crone, we did have what I will call dodgy intel, what we called the COD burner at the time. And it's still, a lot of this is still unconfirmed, because it turns out, there was a big drama around this person. I'm like 99% certain who it is, and I think it's been confirmed to the public now, but I'm not going to give them any more airtime, because there was also accusations of them trying to manipulate the market and players and the storylines behind players. Possibly because they were going to get involved in trying to pick up players or buy a team. And obviously, because they had that inroad and they were well off and whining and dining players and such, they had the access to this intel and they were quite freely sharing it by the sounds of it. But once you start sharing stuff that is true, it can be quite easy to inject stuff that isn't true if you're trying to obviously do what he was alleged to be doing, which was manipulating stuff. But I just find that whole side of it very, very curious, just because it just always seems to be like this. It's almost like a battle in esports a lot of time, journalism. If you criticize somebody, you're going to get lashback, and there's so many different levels, right? Publishers obviously is a bit more high level. They have their PR marketing departments, very well versed. Then you get down to the TOs, and occasionally you could have anything from a TO, right? It can be a published, a polished response, or it can be a wild outswinging. I find as you go down the ladder, like the players after that, the individuals, that's where it gets a little bit, they will go and try and attack you. I know, behind the scenes, casting wise, and all that sort of stuff. You criticize a player, even if you're right, they can say you're wrong because they're a player. People will believe them, and then all of a sudden you're being viciously attacked. It's happened. It's happened to me. It's happened to several of my colleagues. But it can only be worse for journalists who, like, I can go to a green room and just go, "Hey, what on earth are you doing?" And I've done it before. A player tweeted out about me. I saw him at the bar afterwards. Said, "Have we got a problem? What on earth is that?" Slightly more difficult, for a journalist to go and see these people in person and confront them, and kind of push it under the market here, because by that time your reputation is on delivering factual news.
Yeah, and in regards to that specific situation, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't really know what people's motivations are, which is why I think, to tie it all together with the Hastro instance, making allegations of that nature is incredibly dangerous. It takes you into a very dark place, and what you're essentially encouraging the public to do. Like, how many watchdogs do we have in esports right now? The esports press isn't perfect, but I'd say we do a much better job than the mainstream press. And I think, funnily enough, the community holds us to a way higher standard than the mainstream press are actually held to. I've said this for many, many years, and I think that's evidenced by the fact that we constantly now see false stories published in the mainstream media and retractions, and there's little consequences for that. You get a story wrong, one story wrong in esports, you're pretty much done as a journalist, and that's an impossible standard to be held to. Very few of us get to live to that. Not even some of the best journalists in the space have a 100% accuracy record. But why would you expect them to? Sometimes things are going to change. Sometimes the source is going to get it wrong. You just have to hold your hands up when you do and vow to do better moving forward. There's a lot of interest by these people who have all the money in esports in sowing distrust and creating a sort of shared ignorance when it comes to what journalists are really trying to do. Like, me and Adam, fuck, like we don't wake up every day and think I'll publish something false to get clicks. Deserto write me a payment no matter what I publish, right? It's just there. I don't make, if it's popular, I don't make more. If it's shit, I don't make less. I get a fixed amount. And a lot of people think there's some sort of onus on us to write clickbait. Who gives a fuck? My paper's the same no matter what. I don't care if Deserto make this many clicks or this many clicks. I don't care. It couldn't affect me. I just like to do good work. But people push these buzzwords they don't understand, like clickbait, and and they use this, and the morons gobble it up, and they attack journalists for simply doing the revolutionary act of telling the truth about these fucking chuckleheads in esports that want to reduce everyone to a consumer, want to reduce everybody to a revenue stream, and want to get away with doing heinous shit in the space with absolutely no oversight whatsoever. Unfortunately, guys, esports journalists are the oversight. You drive us out, as we've proven many times, go look at Overwatch, your scene gets completely tricked out by the fucking pimp that is the game developer. So if that's what you like, keep attacking us.
Very well put. Adam, have you got anything else kind of further to add to that? I know we've been going back and forth for a second.
Well, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know with Crone, for example. Going back to that quickly, like I understand. Well, he is public facing in a sense, but obviously he does his stuff through CDL Intel. So it's a tricky one. But I don't know if does he deserve more respect if he's getting 100%. Accuracy rates, right? But he's still not putting himself out there as such to be held accountable.
I think it's in a difficult position, right? Because obviously, he's going to have his sources inside, and we've checked in the background occasionally. Like when we've gone live before pre-shows, if we're about to do a roster rumors or we're talking about teams that go back and forth, we'll have it up and we'll check. We'll like double check sometimes, with some players going, by the way, what do you are they right? And usually go, yeah, he's got everything. Well, right, we can talk about it. Alleged was, and we'll still say allegedly, because obviously it's not our intel, and even when we've confirmed it, we don't want to give anything away, because that's not our job. But no, it's interesting. Like I said, there has been cases of it beforehand, and I think the biggest issue with things like that is experts and people who actually are in the scene do have to come forward and repute it. A player can repute it, but if they've got a hand into it, do you believe them or do you not believe them? I've seen players lie blatantly on the timeline before. Mm-hmm. And you have to kind of dig a little bit deeper. And you're right, there's no flashback if you get it wrong. There's literally none. As long as he's right 1 out of 10 times. I'm not saying he is, but if he's right 1 out of 10 times, somebody go, he called that one. And everybody will forget about the other 90% of bullshit that may have come out. And I've seen that happen before.
Benefits to being anonymous, right?
Yeah.
But people, it's a very strange phenomenon. If you're anonymous, you seem to get away with being wrong certainly more often than if you actually put your name to something.
Well, we also saw Hastra coming out against like the leak of Dallas Empire when I think it was a domain that they saw. And then obviously that proved to be true. Like I went into the source code of the website when it launched and found all of the names like a knobhead. And
you're never invited to anything CDL ever again.
Oh, and PUBG. Yeah, the list is growing. Fuck them. But it's just like Hastra never came out and said, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, you were right. Fair play. We obviously wanted to conceal it for our announcement." It just kind of acted like nothing happened, and I didn't see anyone kind of discuss anything. In the background, I was just thinking, what a knob. Like, come on. Like, at least go, okay, yeah, he was right, because then people who follow Envy and perhaps CDL in general will just kind of think that he's wrong about shit and not trust him. And that goes for me too when I was leaking shit, like the subliners, for example. Like, if Anbox came out and said that was bullshit and then it proved to be true, then my reputation is potentially damaged over something that I got right. It's bollocks. Bollocks.
I mean, you can always tell the people that are having like their towering hubris, God complex, Jesus freak moment, right? Because what they do is they don't realize you can just say nothing.
Yeah.
They have to say something. You can say nothing. You don't have to make yourself look like a right fucking mug and say, this is completely wrong. And then 2 months later, or a month later, or a week later, or whatever it is, it comes out and you just basically lied. That should erode their credibility. But for some reason, everyone goes, it's perfectly okay that these people habitually lie and undermine journalists and discredit them. It's perfectly acceptable to do that. That's in the game. But it's certainly not in the game for journalists to have, opinions. We're not allowed to do that. That's a bridge too far, apparently. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Hastro's an incredible example of that. You look at, like I say, the Dallas Empire leaks, right? Why not just say nothing? But what he did instead was, and this is, again, we get back to the fundamental problem is, when I'm talking about morons, I guess what I'm essentially saying is people that don't understand journalism. But I mean, morons, sure, whatever. Who gets about the terminology? But, they're so easily manipulated that all he had to do was say, you guys can keep speculating. It's not speculation if you know it and it's true and you're right. It's not speculation at that point. Mm-hmm. Speculation is, maybe they might be this or maybe they might be that, but I don't really know. It was nailed on, absolutely correct. But with just one word, he manipulated everybody. Oh, it's speculation. And then he, he did this with Slasher for the Overwatch thing in Dallas Fuel, when, Slasher leaked that there was a big roster move that they were talking to a player. Hastro came out and denied it, and then because it's really interesting actually. He's got big fucking opinions, and then right at the end, it's like I don't know if he gets his little rush and then he fucking decides to delete stuff like a pussy. I don't get it. Like, stand by it. He deleted the allegation about Deserto. He deleted it with Slasher. He subtweets people like saying, "Oh, all you little basement leakers." And things like this, basement dwelling leakers. It's like, listen, mate, they got you on toast. You can't fucking keep a secret in your org. That's about you. That ain't about the journalists. So I don't know what you're getting pissed off about. But he's done it before. And as I said, the reason we were beefing for 2.5 years, he came out and I just said, why is T. Martin still on the Envious board after not only did he run CSGO Lotto, he then also immediately went in, he then did the dog apology, and then went into running promoting a pyramid scheme. That was his apology.
I remember that now, actually.
Yeah, what was it? Fanfire or whatever the fuck it was called, or Firebet, or fucking some garbage. Some pyramid scheme that had to change its name because everyone figured out real quick it was a pyramid scheme. So the reality there is, Hastro called that clickbait and said I wasn't genuinely outraged about that. I've got every reason to be outraged about that. The cunts who came over from Call of Duty and fucking ran these casinos, you didn't even exploit your own community. You exploited another one, and you signed off on that. People forget Hastro let CS players in Envious promote T. Martin's bullshit fucking gambling site, and then deleted it off the internet and tries to pretend that never happened. So, to say that I'm being a clickbait journalist because I'm pissed off about that, it's just pathetic. It's like, I don't know what to say about it. It's like, don't like anybody with just an ounce of self-respect and dignity and decency would just put their hands up and go, yeah, look, we fucked up on that one. T. Martin's out the door. Don't worry about it. But he cannot do it. He cannot bring himself to do it. And you just run up against these colossal yet fragile egos in esports all the time. It's mind-blowing to me.
Let's talk about that very ominous I want to say phrase or say its words, clickbait. It's so pervasive, right, in esports. Not in esports, just in journalism in general now, right? I see on the timeline daily, and there is some that is very clearly trying to get it. Those websites where, oh, come check out the top 10 things of X, and then you have to click through 25 pages of bullshit to find it. But at the same time, you have to understand that advertising now, and you have to get the views for the website, and it is business pushing it. Where do you kind of stand on how it is changing that, and even like legitimate articles with well thought out research and you've done the time and it's very well written, even that can be called clickbait just because you put a title that says something shocking. Like people's understanding of clickbait
is wrong.
Is in my mind, it's got so broad now. Is that anything people want to click on is clickbait when something can just be interesting?
Yeah, people give this a lot of shit for this, like specifically in the esports scene. But I honestly, I don't think they're remotely like as bad at it as some others are. Really, I don't know. I just think that Deserto, I said, are the main one for it. But I think they just sort of put a. I mean, it's not clickbait that they do, is it? I don't know what the actual term for it is. We'll ask the journalist.
So they obviously post a lot of bullshit. I think that's the technical term. Like, there's a lot of shit that nobody really cares about. But like, it's just entertainment. It's not like anything important. But then I don't know. It's not even clickbait at that point. It's like, yeah, obviously we want you to click our website, but they're not like misadvertising anything or like mislabeling anything. It is what it is. It's like Alinity tosses off a dog or whatever the fucking story is. I don't know, but like that's what's going to be in the article. So like, I don't think they're the culprits of what people are claiming they're doing. Yeah, you can say like they're putting out low quality content or like low effort content, and that's to fund the real pieces as such, the real journalism. But I mean, yeah, it's the people who don't have a fucking clue what they're on about who seem to be outraged the most, which is a theme throughout everything in life. I've noticed. So I just tend to ignore it. But yeah, it comes down to the definition of clickbait and what it actually means. And if you don't understand that, then how the fuck can you label anything as that? It's bollocks.
Yeah, for me, whenever I see the great discussion about clickbait raging across social media, just seems to be the entry level for stupid cunts to try and talk about something they don't understand. It's like, you don't know anything about journalism, the business side of it, the methodology of it. You never will. Why the fuck are you talking about this as if you've got some grasp on it? Here's what clickbait was back in the great old days of the internet when we were using Alta Vista and all of that stuff. It existed back then. It was basically something that induced you to click on a site and then grossly sort of delivered something different to what your expectations were. It baited you into the click, and then it served up something completely different, typically for the purposes of advertising in the time before ad block or, data acquisition or something along those lines. Then with the new wave of digital media, clickbait became headlines that don't even tell you what the article is really about. So you'll never guess what number 3 is on this list of ways to cure hemorrhoids. So now, because again, it comes down to morons and psychological manipulation. Well, I must know what number 3 is. I really want to get my fucking hemorrhoids cured. Maybe you don't even have hemorrhoids, but you just want to know, and you click on it. So then clickbait now is just having a title that makes you want to click on something. That's what people think. And it's like, what should we do? Should we headline every article? Fuck off, don't click this. Just so we can have some sort of standing with you.
Yes.
What the fuck are we all doing here, you fucking cretins? So, it's become this absurd thing. Now, listen, obviously as a freelancer that happens to write into Certo at the moment, I will add, and I joke about this with the editors, and it might be a bit of a sore spot with them, but they do print some stuff that certainly straddles the line of what I might consider clickbait, but that's actually few and far between. Most of it is just sort of general throwaway summaries of happenings that you might want to get you might just want to see the clip, you might just want to get some commentary around it, and it's not that it has any sort of real value, but people just spread that on social media, and it's that business model that enables Certo to pay people like me and do real reporting. So it's a business model that all digital publications use. I mean, BuzzFeed is an anathema to me, but all those shitty listicles they put out pay for BuzzFeed News that once in a blue moon actually do some high-level journalism. So you got to take the rough with the smooth, and it's pathetic that people just cannot grasp this and throw these terms out there that they don't understand because all journalism must be bad because my favorite player says so.
No, I get that. Adam, you how has your battles been with this? Because I'm guessing every time you submit something or deal with a creative titling, as some people like to call it, Esports Insider, how are you? What's your personal view on it?
I mean, it's good practice to have a good title, right? Like at the end of the day, we want the title to be an accurate description of what's what, but it's also, in my eyes at least, it's a good work of craft if you can get a fucking good title that makes sense based on what's what, but it is also, it's interesting. I think it's bollocks, as Richard said. Like if we just titled everything "fuck off," like no one's going to read it. So yeah, like we're a B2B platform, so it's a little bit different. We don't cover like roster happenings or what players are saying or anything like that. So it could be like ESL announcing the major in Rio next year or something like that, or Dallas Empire revealing their branding. Like you can't really misconstrue that too much. So in the business side of things, it is hard. It'd be really hard for anyone to claim anything that we've done is clickbait, or bullshit, or
I bet you've been accused of it though, right?
I don't think I have. Well, I haven't seen it. I tend to ignore the plebs on Twitter anyway, and social media. I ignore them. It's just the easiest way to do things. If you know people are chatting shit and don't know what they're on about, then why are you even listening to them? So I guess I have encountered it a little bit, but I've just I block it out. And I don't know, but I can see how it'd be a lot worse at, say, a Deserto or something, which I do freelance for, but I do like scripts, like video stuff, so I don't even fall victim to that kind of thing, on my articles there. So no, it don't really happen too much on our side, but I think that's more the nature of the business content, and also the audience is very different. Like the general esports audience don't give a fuck about business stuff. It's the people within the industry and marketing managers outside of the industry, for example, who really care. So they actually tend to know a little bit more as to what's going on and tend to actually be able to use their brain a bit.
Yeah. It's interesting that we're talking about Deserto now, because if you are going to talk about journalism in Call of Duty, they have been the mainstay for, I don't even know how many years, Tunn. I can't even remember how long it's been.
Since I was playing, so a while.
Yeah. They went away for a little while. They used to have a C in their name instead of an X. Mm-hmm. That's how old we're talking here.
Yeah, they were different then, though. I really enjoyed, actually. I think it would be worth to sort of, if you are listening to this, their one that they did with Hex. It was really good, actually, for them to give an explanation around the website, that sort of stuff. So if you do hate Deserto, maybe have a listen to that. But yeah, they've been around for a hellishly long time. They were if anybody doesn't know, they were a forum before anything else, really. And it was sort of opinion pieces on there. It was just Call of Duty based mostly, where players were trying to get scrims, that sort of thing. It wasn't a publication website first and foremost. It was just a community website, and then that's how it kicked off, because people would write articles about teams and stuff, and then it sort of snowballed and then became what it is to a point. So yeah, it is the mainstay for Call of Duty, and I hope it stays that way. I really dislike the hate they get on Reddit hate them, but Reddit hate a lot of things. But
Reddit, let's not talk about Reddit, because I ranted about some Reddit stuff last week. I think with the Deserto stuff, one thing, because there's 2 points to this, right? The first is they have got a reputation as being clickbaity stuff, but at the same time, and this is, they won Journalist Website of the Year 2019 at Esports Awards. Mm-hmm. And to tell you the story behind that, Rich probably already knows because he might have been in some of the calls. I can't remember which ones you're on. But I think when they were being discussed by experts this year, they were saying, my point, and I know somebody else actually jumped in before me, said, I think we judged them too harshly last year, because truth being told, we weren't involved with the website and we didn't understand just how big Deserto had become. Because in my mind, and this is short-sighted for me in 2018, I still think of it as the three guys in a flat in Camden. Right? I was still that's still how I'm always going to picture them. I'm always going to remember them at the back of EGL events with a dodgy mic and a dodgy camera, doing stupid little videos. And then they go, no, we've got, people right, we've got this big team of writers now, we're putting out this many. And obviously, by 2019, I actually found out just how many clicks they actually do per through day. And it's a ridiculous number. They've got investors coming in to kind of help out. And in 2019, that was one of the first things we talked about. I said, you know what, this Clickbait website is actually doing so much. They're putting out so much content. Yeah, it's not all going to be a gem. But they are covering things that people don't cover. And that's the second part of this. It irritates me in Call of Duty, especially when people like to shit on Deserto. Now there are obviously more websites, and it's no disparagement to the new websites that are coming in, like Esports Insider covering now, and like you see things on ESPN Esports for it, and all these other websites are covering. But they weren't there 3 years ago. They weren't there 5 years ago, and they weren't there 7, 8 years ago. Deserto has been covering this shit when nobody else was covering it. And then people are just going to sit there and just spit on their name. I'm not defending them. I'm not going to, I have no reason to be nice to Deserto. But to sit there and pretend that, it's okay for there to be no journalism and no content going on around an esport is fucking insane.
I swear there's videos that Deserto did where you still had the same haircut 10 years ago, Brice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a fucking time traveler. That's how old.
Hey, if it works.
Does it work?
I think I've got the same haircut as well.
But it's that kind of short-sightedness that really irritates me, because it's not easy. And Deserto now rightfully have diversified and they cover all this stuff and this entertainment stuff. And even then, right, there were conversations in 2019 saying, yeah, they do put out things like, guess what this Twitch streamer did, not safe for work shit. And I'm still going, I kind of want to know, click. And still click on it. And people are coming up and go, yeah, I still can't actually click that shit. I'm like, yeah, because you want to know. And they cover it because people do want to know. It's still journalism, regardless of what you think the content is. If it's fucking Love Island, Big Brother, if it's about some fucking Instagram models doing something stupid in a fucking public park, if you want to know about it and they cover it and you would ingest that content, you don't really have a right to go around and go, all you do is shit content. Because it's something people clearly want to know about. That's what the fucking news is. Right?
I mean, put it this way. It's like I said, everyone's attacking Deserto. It's really interesting when you see Call of Duty fans do that and just esports fans in general. it's like, well, what do you want, right? So, okay, Deserto say, let's shut her up shop and we'll write about something else. And now you're left with, Kotaku, Polygon. Like, do you want mainstream games press that they're not going to write a single story you actually care about, but if a player says a naughty word on a stream, they're there driving that outrage. If that's what you want your entire fucking coverage to be reduced to, have at it, guys. I mean, honestly, like, I can't speak for Deserto, but for me, eventually the well will run dry one day. The well of tolerance for your stupidity, where you're going to keep attacking a journalist with a 100% accuracy record, and eventually I'm just going to be like, you know what, fuck it, have it, get ripped off, go on, get ripped off. Like, I'm not around to save you from yourselves. You throw your money at this fucking shady thing over here. Don't send me an email. Oh, my knife got took by a scam. Yeah, brilliant, good. Fuck you. I'm out. You know what I mean? Because that's the world you're going to create for yourselves. If you cannot learn to appreciate that, okay, the price for having actual journalists that understand the space, are well sourced in the space, are not trying to do something negative to the space, and are actually going to occasionally tell you things that you need to know for your own benefit. If you don't understand that comes at the price of an occasional clickbaity article or some throwaway bullshit that's just there to basically generate clicks and by extension revenue, if you can't figure that out as a fucking paradigm within which to exist, like, you do deserve the fucking Mad Max style wasteland that esports would be with no esports journalists in it.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Like, it's just, for me, if anything, the more mainstream we get, it does seem to be more and more antagonistic, these relationships. And even and obviously, Rich, this is more directed at you. Like, I can't.
I'm antagonistic.
Well, it's I don't mean in your regard, but we'll get to that. Like, I can't go on like a social media site like Twitter. I read your tweets, by the way. The tweets and replies, great. Or Reddit, and Reddit's a great example of this. Like, every time you post, and I know you've had these big issues with Reddit in the past. Every time you post something and it goes into the Reddit stuff, and we won't talk all about the League of Legends bullshit and all that malarkey. I read the comments, and if I know you've broken it, I'm reading down the comments because I know the same shit's going to be there. Everybody's like, there's two sides of it going. You have a proven reputation. You've done it time and time and time again, and then there's still people going, "Nah, fuck him." He doesn't know what he's talking about. Over and over again, and I think you even said it recently as well. You don't know when enough. You've done enough. Like, at what point are people just going to accept that you aren't going to just put out bullshit and just accept?
It's bizarre, and it's a little bit my own fault, because what I did is I've sort of become a kind of personality in my own right, and I think how people like their journalists are, they like them like what Adam's doing. They like him, in this silhouette, backlit. It looks like the fucking guy from XCOM, like Commander. Like, that's how they want you, right? in the fucking background, not fucking, and they don't want you to sort of have any of your own opinions or any like personalities or anything like that, right? They just want you to fucking put out the articles, take their shit on social media, and keep doing it. And what I've done is, I've kind of had a life where I've been on camera talent, I've hosted TV shows, I run podcasts, I have a very vocal Twitter account, and as a result of that, you kind of fall into the same Marmite territory of any online personality, and that is that people will hate you for the things that you've done, which again are always blown out of proportion by your haters. What you have to realize is you start creating. You're no longer like this fast food consumption thing. What they do is haters are just anti-fans. They have to read everything you do. They have to watch everything that you do. They have to follow you on Twitter. I block people on Twitter and they create alts for the express purpose of following me, right? And yet they claim to hate me, but they can't get enough of me. It's like, imagine being in someone's fucking head like that. So obviously when I put an article out, 50% is discussing, that's fucking generous. 20% is discussing the content of the article. The other 80% is discussing me as a person. And this is why they always tell you, like, as a journalist, you never want to become the story. But I think that applies to a time, it's an anachronism. You have to be a personality now. If you want anybody to even notice your work, like how would it stand out from a backdrop where anybody can publish a blog, anybody can do a YouTube video, anyone can run an anonymous Twitter account? So I've done some things wrong. I've definitely done some things that weren't fucking wrong. Like everyone says, oh, he got banned on League of Legends. Do you know how easy that is to get banned from a fucking subreddit? Because you got some fucking neck-bearded incel that fucking is, all he has is Reddit moderation. So they abuse their power because Reddit encourage the abuse of power because they don't pay their voluntary staff. Right. So the inducement is you must abuse your power. So yeah, guess what? Guy who wrote something bad about Reddit moderators got banned by Reddit mods. That's my fault, is it? Think about it, boys. Like it's not. So yeah, people are just dumb, and people just want to discuss personalities and not merit and not work, because that's the kind of culture that we exist in right now. That's all it is. So I get a lot of it because, unfortunately, I've unapologetically put myself out there. I don't think I've ever apologized for any of the fuck ups I've done. I don't kowtow to mobs. I never will. And I've also hit an age where I'm a little bit older than everyone. Well, almost everyone else in esports. Shout out to Scoot. And a few others, but I'm kind of the second generation at esports, so I'm getting old now, and you just hit an age where you just like, who gives a fuck? Just who gives a fuck? I know who I am and what I've done, and who cares? Like some fucking 14-year-old lecturing me about journalism. Yeah. Fuck off, go play Fortnite, you prat.
I'll be honest with you, it's kind of the reason I was very entertained by constantly. I was sitting next to you at the esports awards, and I was like, you just won the order. I was like, I'm just going to check Twitter. I've got to check Twitter. It's good. I've got to see it. I've just got to look at it. I've got to see what happened. I've got to see what happens. But that's always interesting with that. Adam, I kind of want to change topics here a little bit, because we were supposed to have another guest on here, a very good friend of mine called Chris Trout, who works at Gfinity.
Yeah. We'll preface this with that Trout's coming to my wedding with Brice next week as well. So we're slightly biased on this one.
The cronyism in esports is out of control, guys. Where's Hastro?
Get him in.
Yeah. This looks like a conflict of interest to me, attending each of his weddings. Write something good about Dallas Empire and put that in the best man speech. Fucking idiot. Anyway, sorry, go on.
I fucking lost where I am. Right.
Sorry, mate. I'm on one. What can I say? Like, I'm in the moment. Go on.
So I don't know, because we were kind of talking about this before a little bit, Adam, and I don't know how to introduce this properly without putting words in your mouth, but I understand.
I don't care. Go for it.
I understand, because you and him were going to have a discussion about their content at the moment, or something along those lines. Like, you aren't a big fan of the way they're doing things, or something. It was something along those lines you were getting at.
Well, I mean, I'd say if you want to have a go at anyone for like sheer like shoddy content, just go on like Gfinity's website at the moment. No, like genuinely, like it's all SEO shit, which is fair enough. Like, you're obviously trying to bring viewers to your website. But fuck me, the titles alone are like 50 fucking words. As spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, like sentence structures all over the shop throughout basically every article. Like, I will be completely honest here, and it seems a bit harsh, but like, I go through Gfinity's website every night and read a handful of the new articles that have been pumped out, and just have a fucking laugh to myself, because it's outrageous. And that's part of the reason why I'm pushing people to have a fucking editor at your publication. Like, if you're putting shit
I'm
out,
looking at it right now.
Oh, it's atrocious, mate, isn't it? And I'm not going to go into some of the people that they've hired. Like, they've got someone there. I'll say one thing. They've got someone there now, Nick Mist Farrell. He's a twat and he can't write, so I don't know why he's still there. But, like,
nice, mate.
The content... No, he's an absolute cunt and he knows it. But they still hire him for some reason. I was going to ask Trout about that, actually, if he came on. Like, because they fired one of the guys who did shit wrong, but not the other guy. So it doesn't make any sense to me. But nonetheless... The stuff they put out is crap, right? And okay, I'm not the target audience for the best M4 setup in Modern Warfare, fair play. But, like, do you not have any sort of, like, self-respect or, like, pride in the work you're putting out? Because if I'm going to your website, right, you want that. You're trying to capture my attention, so I look at what else you do in esports. And then I go through and you can't even form a fucking sentence properly. Or, like, the image is just absolutely arse. Like, it's not a quality view, because I'm going to look at it, laugh, and then fuck off and go to the next website. Like, it's just poor. So I actually think, like, instead of highlighting Deserter, which does a lot of whatever stuff, but also a lot of good stuff, why are we not highlighting Gfinity? And I try to do it, and I do make a call for people to hire editors all the time. Like, there's a new publication that's just come out called GG Intel. they've launched with like a fucking editor as well, but that's because of the person above them telling them, right, get it fucking out, get the website going, go. It's just bollocks, and they're the people that we should be putting pressure on, if anyone, to fucking sort shit out and held themselves to a higher standard. But no one's saying a fucking thing, so I just sit and laugh.
Chris, will you invite Adam to your wedding now? So it gets, you know what I mean? Elton John, Saturday night's all right for fighting.
I was very curious what you had to say, Adam, and now I'm very nervous to go to this wedding next week. So Chris Trask will be very pleased with me.
It's not your views, right? You haven't said anything.
I mean, look, what Adam's talking about here is spot on as well. Unfortunately, there's a lack of understanding. I don't even think it's as simple as hiring editors, because some of the people I've seen getting the editorial jobs, it's like, what credentials is this cunt got, you know? And the Gfinity website, you know, I won't specifically reference it. I only saw it today. I've worked obviously their events back in the day, and I generally like them as a company. You know, pay on time, all of that stuff. Always good events. But that website's a fucking travesty. Like, so let's just file that one away for later. But you know, an editor wouldn't necessarily fix that, because they don't understand what they need to be doing as an editor. It's not just checking spelling. I think a lot of people think running a fucking spell check means you can be an editor at a website, right? The editors that I've worked under, what you're supposed to do is, first of all, you have pitch meetings. What stories are you working on? What stories are you working on? Me as the editor, this is going to bang. So I want you on it, and I want you on it. You're doing additional research and that. Nobody does that. People are still rewriting news in esports like that has any fucking intrinsic value. I do not understand it. Like, at least when Deserto do it, they take a Twitch clip and they write up some commentary around it and link to other articles, so you get an understanding of the history and the context. So they don't just generate one click when you see it on Twitter. They generate multiple ones, because you click in the links inside the article to learn more about it, right? That's fine. But when people rewrite a news story, it's got no value. It's got no value. Like, being second to a news story, what the fuck are you thinking? Who's clicking on that? I go to the original source. I don't give a fuck what the high minds of Gfinity have to say about the news. Like, that's fucking dumb. So, but editors don't understand this. The bottom line is, this is what you should be doing if you want to drive traffic to your website. You need to get big names who have authoritative opinions that people give a fuck about, and audiences of their own to write opinion pieces. You should be breaking news stories, so hire journalists that can do that, not rewrite other people's stories, which you see in the games press all the time. Like, they literally employed somebody at Polygon to rewrite things from the Dota subreddit. What is the fucking point? What's the value? What's that, 50 fucking clicks an article? No one cares. No one who's a Dota fan is reading Polygon anyway. You've never broke a story in your entire history. Waste of money. And then the third thing, and I have yet to see this in esports, and it's infuriating to me because it is a staple of news journalism, is when a story breaks, right, you got scooped on, you're second. Go get me 3 or 4 experts to tell me why this is game-changing, why this matters, why I should care. And then that has value. So you don't get the scoop, but, you know, a news story breaks. Hey, I want to hear what Brice's got to say about it, but Brice ain't writing at that website. Brice's given why it matters over on that website. So I go and click on that as a follow-up to that story. 3 things that will always generate traffic. There you go. I've just done an editor's job. It's staggering how stupid people are. That there's editors out there who think it's just, hey, this story broke. Can you rewrite it in under 500 words? Like, brilliant. You've generated 100 clicks for your website and no revenue. Well done. And you're getting paid how much a year? $80,000 or something? Fucking, it's mind-blowing, mate.
Do you think there's a lack of pushing esports towards investigative journalists? Like, because a lot of this, what you're talking about here, you know, I see adverts of writers all the time, but they're not looking for people to go out there and investigate stuff. They want to know, you know, oh, can you write up 10 articles on the greatest classes to use? That sort of stuff. Like, that's what I see all the time. That's the journalism they want. I don't really see anybody going, right, we need somebody who's actually going to go out there and find this stuff. And I know both of you done, like, obviously, you know, Rich, your history is long in that regard. And Adam, you know, you said something you actually referenced earlier. You went on the website and found it in the source coding. I don't think any of these writers are out there, or people who have regurgitated that content, have bothered to go and find it for themselves, or have bothered to try to go a little bit further. I haven't seen any of that, you know?
No. I will say that I think a lot of people tend to not try and investigate anything is because they're trying to protect relationships. That happens a lot in esports, from my point of view, my perspective at least, where people would rather stay quiet about a situation if it would potentially benefit them in the future, rather than fucking going for it and calling out the shit and hoping people latch onto it and agree with it and change happens, you know? So I think I can speak for myself. Like, when I've been looking for writers, I've been looking for people who have broken stories before in the past. It's a bit harder in my side of esports, the whole esports publication stuff. But I do actively seek it, but it's just not much of it. So I guess part of it is a lack of experience. Not too many people have experience breaking stories, and you're not going to go on an esports course. You're not going to go to one of these unis that are now opening up fucking degrees and courses and shit. And they're going to teach you how to build up a network and work a story properly and confirm with multiple sources. You're not going to get that. It requires an actual interest and understanding and kind of a keenness as to want to do it. And I don't think a lot of people want to do that. They'd rather just protect people. They'll hear stuff all the time. Like, news travels very fucking quickly, but like they'll never say a thing about it, and that's just because they're only thinking about themselves. Not everyone, obviously, but quite a few people from my perspective, that's the case anyway.
No, I can see that. I think, you know, in my thing, I'm always very curious, because a lot of this, right, and I suppose it's different from mine and Tunn's point of view. They do somewhat have at least the extra avenue inside track, right? I can probably go find something out in the background, especially about Call of Duty, find out whether or not it's true or what's actually happening. Like, when your leaks come out, I went and found out, you know, by the way, someone who knows, is this right? And they're like, yeah, don't say nothing. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to know. But obviously, a lot of people don't. And I suppose there's also this thing about, well, and we spoke about it earlier in the podcast, is this lashback or this being afraid or being shut out, because there have been people blacklisted for negative reviews, and then you can't get into events, and then you can't get, you know, and it also happened. I think the most obvious example of this is the game reviewers, right? Because they're the ones that get spoke about most, right? You do a negative review for a game, well, fuck you, you're never getting a review code again, right? And that's how, you know, I think I've seen Jim Sterling's talked about it now. He goes, I don't give a shit anymore. You know, I'm not ever gonna get a game from any of these companies ever again. Because I won't write what they want me to write. You know, if I don't like their game or whatever, it's never coming out. And some journalists, you know, who don't have the history and pedigree, are terrified of no longer having that, what they see as the inside access. So they're quite happy to, you know, play about and go, oh, you know, yeah, it's all right. Maybe I won't write this, or maybe I'll just, you know, live tweet your fucking press conference.
I mean, this is the problem, right? Like, the blacklists, and I've been on a fucking ton of those. You know, the one thing I'll just add before I even get into the whole blacklisting process is I ain't never been on a blacklist that I never got lifted off. They always come back. They always need you. They always need the clicks. They always think they can win you over, and you'll start writing fucking PR and propaganda for them. Because again, it's hubris, it's ego. You know, to put it in context, I had a fucking conversation with a high-ranking Riot official not that long ago. I mean, I've been banging on Riot since Riot existed. Because, you know, so, and they're like, hey, you know, new management's coming in. Should we put you back on the press release detail? I'm like, you can do all that, but I'm still going to fucking wreck you every time you fuck up. I'm still going to wreck you when you have to pay $10 million to settle a fucking, you know, sexual discrimination case. And then you think the optics of having an event in Saudi Arabia where women have just been allowed to fucking drive and vote for the first time is smart. Guess what? I'm there, motherfucker, to tell you how stupid and awful that is. And don't you ever lecture me about what a cunt I am again if you're a Riot executive, by the way. But whatever. The blacklist phenomenon is just about egos and hubris. Activision Blizzard are notorious for this right now. I don't think I know a journalist in the space who hasn't been threatened to have their credentials pulled. They've intimated to Deserto, if I don't start towing a line, you know, maybe they'll, you know, so it's ridiculous. But the games developers only want you to fucking eat their shit and tell them it tastes like chocolate ice cream. They are children. They are infantile. They cannot take any criticism, no matter how valid it is. And that as a basis for blacklisting, I find that empowering. I think when you're on the blacklist, I think you are finally free, because I can sit at home. I don't need to go to an Activision Blizzard event to tell everybody Activision Blizzard suck. I can do that right here without ever having to leave my house. And people tell me things, your employees tell me things. And by blacklisting me, there can never be a quid pro quo. You've actually freed me from even that being an allegation. So the blacklist, a lot of young journalists get scared of that and go, but what if I can't get an interview with the top player at an org? Don't worry about it. Who gives a fuck? Now you are free to say what you really think. You've been emancipated. That's how I always treated the blacklist. It was a sign of weakness. And then that's why after 2 years of being on a blacklist, all these big orgs go, fucking hell, he's worse now. Fuck, what did we do? And that's when they invariably come creeping back.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Obviously, knowing you personally, Rich, and stuff, I always find it funny. We had this conversation like we're either about to meet somebody or, you know, even the Esports Awards, you're about to shake somebody and going, yeah, that guy hates me. Let's go say hello.
Yeah, no, because it's never personal with me as well, by the way. You understand, like, if I wreck you, I'm only wrecking you because you're doing something damaging to esports. I'll sit down and have a beer with you within reason. Obviously, if you're like a fucking sexual predator or, you know, whatever other freaky cunts creeping around esports these days. Obviously not. But if you know, it's like me and Syndicate, like, you know, I looked in that guy's eyes and knew he was genuinely apologetic and genuinely upset about the fact that he got strung along by CS:GO Lotto. So me and Tom can have a fucking beer. Me and fucking Team Martin, get fucked. Like, I wouldn't break bread with you for nothing because he didn't give a fuck. He wasn't apologetic. He was the driver. He was the guy saying, this will be fine. We'll get away with it, you know? So it's never personal. It's never personal with me. Like I've even broke stories that have really harmed people that I like or have a relationship with. And, you know, Thorin is an example of this, Steel from CSGO. And we sidle up and here's a fucking beer for you, you know, and I'm sorry, mate, but I serve a higher calling. That sounds pretentious as fuck. But like, it's the industry. Like, I can't let my fucking friendship with you, if you're doing something really bad, like, enter into the equation. I can all hang with you. We can all party. We can all do bumps and beers and whatever the fuck. But at the end of the day, I go back to my life. And my life is, I need the industry to be clean. And if anybody's doing any fucking shady shit, like, you're getting got. It's got to be like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's
no, I agree. I agree. It's one of the reasons. Well, we talk, Rich. I've always been very much against what I like to call the scumbags in esports, and I know you're very much of the same mind. All right, let's move this along because I know what people have got podcasts to do after this.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I talk too much, don't I?
No, it's fine. It's fine. That's why we bring you on, right? It's a podcast. People want to listen. So, questions from the chat very quickly, and I think this one is a great one. I was going to kind of bring this up, but this is fantastic. People are talking about the value of volunteering and newcomers into this. Into journalism, into the esports journalist side of it, and doing articles for free, and how you transition in and out of that, and what you should be doing, and going about it. Because, you know, I've been asked to write articles before, and even now, you know, I'm like, well, it's different for me. You know, I have a talent face and a manager, but I don't even know what to do, and I can't even imagine how difficult it is for people who are coming out there and just want to write and just get their name into it and stuff.
Yeah, well, I would say straight up, like, don't quit your day job if you haven't fucking written before and expect to have a full slate of work the next fucking week, you know. So I don't know. I think you should. The way I did it, right? I had a full-time job and I was writing for my own website on the side, like building up experience. And when I thought I was getting quite decent, I consulted with a couple of friends, a few people that I'd met along the way, and they gave me pointers that way. And I also read a shit ton, because how are you expecting to get better at writing if you don't read what else is going out there and who's better than you and what you can work on, you know? So, and just over time I started getting better. And at some point I reached out to the owner of Esports Insider. That was my first break in esports, and I had a trial. And in that trial, I think it was more him testing how receptive I was to change, rather than my base level at that point, and perhaps where my ceiling was. You know, I think I don't have a problem personally with people volunteering, as long as you're not getting absolutely like the piss taken out of you, and you're writing 6 pieces a day. You're spending your whole evening doing it all the time and getting nothing in return. And especially if their intentions are never to hire you anyway, then it's not a thing. But I mean, I don't see that there's anything wrong with it if you're actually getting something from it. If the people you're volunteering for are helping you out and guiding you, and you're building up a network yourself while you're doing it, then it's not too bad. Just don't do it for 17 years unless you just want to do it as a hobby, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. What you've got to be wary about if you're throwing yourself out there as a volunteer these days, first of all, is this journalism culture we've got. There's a lot of websites out there that basically their approach is chuck shit at a wall, see what sticks, and they're gonna get volunteers to do the shit throwing, and it's not really a good use of your time. And that's what we call journalism. It's kind of a term. There you go. I've given somebody else. You can cry about that on fucking Reddit now. But the reality is, I would say to volunteers, like, be very wary about volunteering, because there is nobody in esports that can teach you anything worthwhile. Like, being real about it. Like, I've already told you what cunts these editors are, and now they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. So what's the point in volunteering for somebody like that when all they're going to tell you is rewrite this, do like fucking hell? You learn that when you're 10. So if you're going to volunteer, it has to be with somebody worthwhile. It has to be treated like an internship. Otherwise, get your paper, get paid for what you fucking do. Because if you don't, you really are wasting your time, and you're not going to build a legacy, and you're not going to build a skill set. So what's the point? So yeah, volunteers. I hear a lot. Oh, volunteers are the lifeblood of the esports industry. Then your industry is fucked. Pay people for their fucking labor, for their fucking time, and if you can't do that, offer them something at least in lieu of that. And if you can't do that, fuck you. So my advice to any volunteers out there: be very careful who you volunteer for.
Yeah, no, I get that. I hear that a lot, the volunteer thing, and it does slightly anger me, because it's all aspects of esports that do that. And they go, "Oh, I even had a conversation. I won't say who with, and this was about maybe 4 years ago, and it was talking about casters, and I was very angry because I was sitting in the room when this happened, and they went, "Yeah, but these casters kind of want to do it, don't they? Do we really have to pay them? They want to be seen in it." I'm sitting there going, "I beg your fucking pardon." I'm like, they're in the same room with me, and I'm looking at him going, you just don't want to pay people. Like, and it's everything in esports, right? If you need a job doing, then clearly you need somebody capable of doing that job. If you don't want to pay somebody, then the job can't be that important or unnecessary. Like, if it's necessary to do, then it's necessary to pay somebody. It's always been the case. Now, volunteers can do things like, I know if you're taking a risk on somebody, or it's their very first fucking esports event and you need them to look after a station or something, yeah, maybe, because basically they have to put in some settings to check nothing goes wrong, and it's a way to see what their work ethic is, and it's nothing too complicated. But at the same time, you need somebody able to do that. If you're not going to put that same person onto main stage and pay them fuck all, because if they fuck up on broadcast, then you get what you deserve. You get fucked over. But yeah, you definitely have to be careful with the volunteering thing. It's all across esports. There's a lot of people who go, "Oh yeah, volunteer, get your name out." Yeah, that's fine. It's exactly what you should do. Get your name out there and work hard. That's how a lot of people got their ins. But realize at some point there are a lot of people out there who are quite happy to keep you as the volunteer, and you can just keep coming back. And don't worry, you can sleep on the floor of this hotel room, mate. No, it's fine. Yeah, you get a ticket to the event. Yeah, you get to see
2011 we go.
Yeah, you get to see the event. Oh, yeah, sure I do. Of course I do. Well, I'm fucking working, doing all this
bullshit. Back to 2018 we go. Let's not pretend, mate.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, that shit still happens. Don't just because,
I was talking from a casting perspective, maybe.
No, that shit still happens. That shit still happens, mate. Don't fucking kid yourself. That doesn't still happen.
I bet you're still bunking with people. I bet they're still booking two to a room.
No,
not in an event I've done recently.
No,
not an event I've done recently.
Maybe you guys have elevated above that.
Mate, it still does it. I get shit from people all the time talking about it. You know, like,
go talk to the PUBG guys. There was this one event which is meant to be prestigious. They stuck them in a fucking youth hostel, so it was like 10 to a room. No shit.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that. Funny enough, I know a company very close to home that has done that and put me in a youth hostel across London. I'm like, I'm going to get ready for broadcast in this youth hostel. I've got to walk out of here because there's no changing rooms. This is, no changing rooms at events back in those days. So either I get changed by the cabling in me pants, or I get ready at the hotel. And obviously, I was like, well, I'm in a hostel now. I'll get ready with everybody else. I'll walk across London.
Yeah, you're across from some dude with fucking mad bug eyes that managed. You know what I mean? He's just fucking staring at you.
Yeah, I'll put on a fucking suit.
Yeah, hang on, youth hostels. That's an experience.
All right, there's a few more questions coming. This one's actually to you, Rich, and I don't know whether it's an inside joke. They're asking about, did you ever own your own esports website with Duncan and DK?
No, I think I think this is something that gets brought up a lot, right? Like, I won't lie. I've said this, and I'll say it again. If anyone wants to make the best coverage website in esports, any of these VC groups or anyone that's coming into the space, because all these mainstream publications are getting esports verticals now. Just come and get me. Give me $10 million for over 5 years, and maybe that's make it 20, and I'll just build you something that'll be unrivaled, unprecedented, and we'll be turning a profit between year 3 and 5. Like I'm 100% confident I'll do it. But we always talked about owning our own shit. That was just something that it kind of felt like a natural progression. I get fucking accused of having a share in Deserto on Reddit on live stream fail. Like, how could Richard Lewis criticize anybody when he literally owns Deserto? Mate, I am the fucking puppet master, mate. I'm everywhere. I got fingers in every pie. But yeah, it's something that, I think we've talked about because we've all made a bit of money now. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know if I'd want to do that, honestly. Like, I don't know if I'd want to run it as like sort of a co-op. Like it would just feel weird because we're all like colleagues. There would have to be somebody above, there would have to be something like that.
Chris Trout. Get Trout
yeah,
here.
Definitely. We're gonna take over Gfinity with a 10 million cash injection. Now our headlines only have 40 words in it. So I don't know, man.
Cheers, guys. Can't wait to see you next week.
I hope he doesn't watch this. Bye. Oh, you know what I'll do on my drive up to Tunn's one? And I'll listen to that episode of Spitfire I was supposed to be on. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, fuck.
This one's actually not journalism related, so I can knock this one out of the park really quickly. MB499, this is a cold question, asks about Optic picking up Chino and Goonjar because it's an AR-heavy team into the late stages of the year. I've always said, if you ever watch this, I always think the Call of Duty meta switches to a faster as it goes along because pressure becomes more and more prevalent, and subs help with that. I think Chino's a fantastic pickup regardless because of his branding and such for them. And please bear in mind, I don't expect the Chicago Huntsmen to make a roster change from this main roster anytime soon. Remember who's on there. Oh, who did they say, sorry? Oh, Optic. I was thinking about the Optic. Yeah. Oh, for some reason, I got Optic and Huntsman in my main men. It's the same thing with that team. That Optic team doesn't expect to change.
Yeah. I think
expect to change.
Yeah, a lot of these organizations are picking up pretty safe subs. In all fairness, that none of them are setting like sort of the world on fire, but they're safe. In all honesty, I seen that. I was like, yeah, makes sense. You could have taken a risk on a younger player or something like that, but safe subs is what everyone seems to be going for.
I've really got to get that Chicago and Optic thing out of my head.
Come on,
I just think of the Huntsman as the new Optic. It's constantly going around. That's what I think of. Let's have a look. There was another one. Do you think Vitality investing in Indian esports is going to be a rerun of the Optic India saga?
No, because I don't think so. I think that there was a shit show at Infinite from almost from top to bottom. So I mean, that it seems like you're comparing two different things entirely. Just because they're both involved in India doesn't make them the same thing,
I went over this on my stream recently, and basically the thought process about them going into India is that esports fans are cheapskate cunts. So the CEO basically turned around and said, like, the average NFL fan spends $50 a year. The average esports fan spends $3.12 a year. Right, it's quite a gap, for this huge industry. And what they think they can do is by doing clever merchandising, they can offset that difference, and they want to exploit this emerging market, India, which is indeed what Infinite were thinking when they had a team there. Don't worry, we won't check if the guy's cheating. He's the best player in the world on a laptop. Nothing wrong with that. And we'll sew up the Overwatch Academy sides with egregious contracts and all of this nonsense that they were doing. But anyway, yeah, expanding into India makes sense. Makes sense now more than it did when people were trying to do it 10 years ago. Because there is a thirst there from Indian esports fans, and we're starting to see the tech deficit get caught up. And the last 2 years, it's produced the most billionaires, unprecedented levels of investment. There's unprecedented levels of VC, and there is this like idea that if you have these big technological events, be it esports, sporting events, whatever, you are announcing yourself on the world stage that you are capable of running those events, and that any of the old stereotypes you might have about the country are gone. So there's a lot of interest. People are very keen on doing it. But the Vitality guy is fucking deluded if he thinks that's going to make up the shortfall from the revenue stream. I would certainly bet against that. But that's his thought process. That's what he's going to do. That's why they've been. It's mainly on merchandising.
So that's what happened with Fnatic with the Hello Kitty thing as well. They were launching into Japan at the exact same time as launching this absolutely awful
Exactly.
collection.
Because it's not enough to have the NA market and it's not enough to have the EU market because you do not spend money. Esports fans do not spend money. This is the one problem we have in esports that no one ever talks about because we're too busy pandering to fans all the fucking time. Look at the fans. Aren't the fans great? The fans are the lifeblood of the industry. Can you just fucking spend at least the equivalent of a Twitch sub to fucking, to the orgs that you supposedly support? Because I am so sick and fucking tired of hearing plastic fans tell me how much they love this industry and they love this team and we're your supporters and you can't talk down to us. You ain't spent a fucking bean, mate, in 20 years you've been watching this shit. So shut the fuck up. You're not a supporter, are you? You don't support anything. That's got to get said.
That's a very good point, actually. I was thinking, now you brought that up, I was thinking again, they're probably watching the Twitch streams with ad block and shit. Like they're not even generating click-through stuff.
I don't mind ad block when it's egregious, but like people don't even white label the sites or the streams or whatever they claim to care about. Like it's a button. It's one button. Look, it's up in the top right now. You click red hand and you turn it green. Is that too much effort for you? Yeah, it turns out it is. Esports fans are unreal.
Not even that long ago, like StarCraft and MLG, there was it was pay-per-view. And I watched it back then. I think it was going all right. But the problem is that, when every other stream is free, what can you do about it? Everybody expects to be able to watch the biggest tournaments in the world. And this is going off on the tangent. I know I wanted to wrap the show up, but this is going off on a tangent. People have no fucking idea how much events costs. Like
no idea.
They have, the average fan has absolutely no clue how much it genuinely costs to run an event. And that's just at the basic level. They don't understand that even like adding a tiny bit, like 1% extra, extra $100,000. You can just blow that like nothing, like absolutely nothing. And it's always been that case. It always makes me laugh, because home streaming's so easy. You got your webcam, there's a £60 capture card, a half decent PC, and fuck it, away we go. And you might not have any issues. When you've got enough cabling to, and it takes teams of people to just set up days after days, and they're going, fucking stream went down for 5 minutes. They're useless. They don't know what they're doing. Well, how about fuck off? It costs $500,000. There's fucking 80 staff, and there's 35 miles of cabling, and a resistor has gone in one bit of kit in the back. You fucking that irritates me. That's a whole other episode. Let's get on with the questions. Last two, and then we'll finish. Someone is talking about, and this is the minor. I don't know how to word this because it seems worded a little bit weird. Are we seeing a shift in esports away from results-based popularity? Apparently, they know of several orgs that have been ordering their social media teams not to tweet out when players are playing and not to tweet out results unless they're good. I don't think they tweet out results unless they're good anyway. I don't think a lot of esports orgs do that.
Of course not, no.
But I don't know about that whole thing about ordering social teams not to tweet out when players are playing. I think that's the entire idea, to get eyeballs on team, regardless. The sponsors certainly want their fucking pound of flesh. They want to see them on that main stage regardless.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think we've ever been a results-driven business to the same degree sports is, right? I mean, I can't think of a sports team where it's like, okay, let's imagine like the Cleveland Browns have some like big names and some personable guys, but they're fucking dog shit and they're a laughing stock, and everyone rightly fucking bangs on them. And the only reason anyone watches them, if you're not from fucking Cleveland, is to fucking laugh at them because they're so objectively awful, even when they win. But in esports, right, we've blurred this line now with like influencer shit. And so what happens is people are fucking out there. Like, I mean, I had a sponsorship back in like 2008, maybe even earlier than that, where it was like, we just got told, fucking, it doesn't matter what the results are, just party, take video footage, take photos, and write up blogs and make sure people know how cool it is to be part of this brand. That was it. So you couldn't get away with that in mainstream sports. Like, people get fired over that shit. People get dropped from the team over that shit. But in esports, you can have people who are like, just not that good, but they've got a big following. So they're picked up by teams. I mean, League of Legends is notorious for this. In fact, I know from talking to people in League of Legends, when they're hiring League of Legends players, that one of the things you consider is Twitter followers. Like, this is ridiculous. Not how good is he, it's how good is he divided by Twitter followers or times by Twitter followers. There's some fucked up formula for it that they use because reach and all of that stuff's way more important in esports than the results.
And that's why Sublime has got censoring, right? It's not because he's the best fucking COD player, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, let's be real about it. I met Censor. He seems a nice guy, but yeah, I mean, let's just be real. It's obviously the fact that he's a big, YouTube presence and got a big following. It's got nothing to do with his ability, right? Well, very little.
All right, fair enough. And the very last question, and I'm sure this is going to be a good thing. What's the biggest gripe you currently have with esports? So, by the way, that spelling is wrong. No E hyphen. But
you know what? Can I just say E hyphen should have won? We should never have changed to email without the hyphen, and we should never change to esports without the hyphen. It's not correct. I don't know why we allowed this colloquialism to become the thing. I was championing the hyphen for fucking years. That probably makes me a boomer, but it's like it's electronic sports. You don't just get to it's esports now. We've just made up another word. Like the hyphen preserves the history of what it is, and linguistically it makes way more sense. But whatever.
It could be worse. It could be.
People are fucking again. People are morons.
It could be
we just do what the morons want. It's fine. Rise of the idiots.
Could have been new sports, Rich. So there's always that small mercy.
Dude, were you around when it was cyber athletes?
I think I saw some of that. Yeah.
Yo, it makes you sound like you got fucking bionic legs or something. Like, it's fucking so dumb. Like,
e-gamers
athleticism.
E-gamers is the one that irritates me the most. E-gamers really irritates me. I don't even know why. Or e-athletes. Yeah. I'm like, just call them competitive gamers or something along those lines. Like, don't go, like e-gamers. I hate it. Anyway, we're talking about what gripes you the most. Adam, what gripes you the most in esports?
Well, Richard's already touched on it. It's the fact that the fans don't give a fuck about supporting anything. Like, it's something I noticed early on when I started writing and observing the industry. Really, they don't give a fuck. They won't. And then also, it's hard for me to even part my money because most of these companies that handle merchandise are fucking abroad, and it costs more to get the fucking item shipped to me than it actually does for the items. So it's hard for me to support sometimes. But I mean, like, yeah, it's definitely the fans like that seem to be ungrateful quite a lot of the time towards everything from journalism all the way up to, like, the amount of money spent on getting a player and then the team not working out, but they'll just give them absolute shit and say, oh, you should have signed so-and-so. But they don't understand things and they don't think. And they're definitely not happy to support people a lot of the time and actually put their money where their mouth is.
No, I can see that.
Yeah, for me, it is the fact that, I don't know if it's because it's gaming culture, but everyone gets, like, multiple lives, if you know what I mean. So I'm sick and tired of fucking scammers, like, changing their name, coming back in the community. You're like, well, who could this guy be? And there's a guy going, it's a scammer. It's a scammer. Shut him up. I like this guy. I saw there was a Rocket League player just get picked up by like a top team that just qualified for the RLCS. Long-standing history is scamming. Who's checking this shit? It's only 2 years ago. It's not like you have to go through the fucking ether. There's Reddit threads and fucking scamming websites you're talking about. No one gives a fuck. As long as the fireworks... You ever seen the fourth George Romero movie, I think it was, Land of the Dead? You ever seen it?
I think I've seen
it's
them all.
Terrible. It's got Dennis Hopper in it and John Leguizamo, right? But anyway, what they do is every time they need to go out on a run, they put fireworks up, and the zombies are going and then looking up at the fireworks. That's esports fans. You just distract them, and no one gives a fuck about all the heinous shit that's gone on. And it's just it. Like, that's just how we're living. Scammers, liars, frauds. They all get like a second life, a third life, a fourth life, because no one will hold anybody accountable. And if you try and hold them accountable, people go, oh, but maybe he's changed. He wasn't held accountable the first time. Like, he just changed his name. Like, this is ridiculous. So that's a fucking pet peeve for mine, for sure.
Fair enough. Tunn, you got anything to add to that?
Oh, God. Top of my head. I'm sort of with these guys is that, people aren't invested to the point of spending their own money at the moment. And I don't know. I think it's just I don't know if it's maybe just an esports fans thing. I don't know if it's just sort of like the whole social media thing, how people are so quick to jump on the negative side of things with anything that seems to go on in esports. But as I said, I don't know if that's just maybe social media at the moment, but we could go on for a while on this topic, I feel.
Yeah, fair enough. Mine's really simple, and I shut up to that all the time. I think there's a lot of people in esports who are just fucking idiots who don't deserve the job and just lie to get what they want.
Failing upwards.
I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. That's the thing. I think I allude to it every week, so I'm not going to go into it. There are so many con artists in esports, you don't even understand.
Can you give me an example of one, Brice?
Yeah, Brice.
Tunn, for a start. Look at him. But anyway, I don't want to
capture cameras. Fucking
exactly
an hour and a half ago.
Exactly.
What a fucking idiot.
Fraud.
All right. Well, let's end it here because you guys have got podcasts to go and do. And speaking of which, Rich, if you want to shout out what you're going to be doing social media wise and your podcast and its name and everything, so people can tune in right after this as they want to.
Yeah, in 15 minutes, I'll be on twitch.tv/Richard Lewis Reports, broadcasting by the numbers with Duncan Thorin Shields. What will he say today? That's pretty much the show. So if you like Counter-Strike or if you just want to watch two boomers fucking piss and moan about things, come over, I guess. But always a pleasure to come on the show, Brice. I like what you guys are doing, man, and keep it up. Hope you don't get too much backlash for my, fucking jaded bullshit.
We'll find out in the middle of January if we're in Minnesota or not.
Same thing for you, Adam.
Well, people can find me everywhere online, literally everywhere, at by Adam Fitch. I myself just launched a podcast last week called the Adam Fitch Podcast because I've got no imagination. And it's almost...
He's really doing it because it's clever branding.
There we go. Thank you very much. Are you kind of ruining the illusion there?
Yeah, sorry, mate.
We
got a full honesty and transparency for all. You know the rules.
There we go. I don't qualify as a boomer, but I'm just as angry and kind of jaded as one.
We should just do an angry podcast. We'll just get everybody who's angry at
He's had a boomer transplant.
I'm like pre-boomer, but like I'm basically there. It's just me getting angry and talking to some people in the industry, really. But yeah, everywhere. Thank you for having me on as well. I appreciate it.
On a serious note, Adam's going to be the next big journalist to break through in the space, and I think he's going to have a real big year in 2020. So everyone should follow his shit, and that's coming from me, and I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I appreciate that. Just make sure to send me your PayPal in DMs after this, mate.
Plug received. Get Hastro on the case.
Chris Tunn.
Nothing in particular. Well, actually, we're not going to be here next Wednesday because the small matter of me getting married and Brice is coming, unless he'd probably be doing it himself. And it's not being streamed.
He won't let me stream his wedding.
No, we're paying somebody to film it. Why would I let you stream it?
Because I could add commentary for people watching at home.
Well,
of your wedding.
Do people want that? I don't know if they want that. But so I don't think we'll be there next Wednesday. I'm going to say next week's probably going to be a write-off, in all honesty. So probably back in 2 weeks' time, I would say.
What, Christmas?
On Christmas Day. sometime in 2 weeks.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. For episode number 50, we're going to try and get something cool done. We've had a few ideas bouncing around about it, but we will hopefully have something cool for episode number 50. Thank you for everybody getting us this far. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. That's going to be the end of the show. Again, appreciate to our guests coming on. I know you're very, very busy people, and I do appreciate it. I thought it was a very serious topic, so I wanted to...
Who am I kidding? I'm just lonely. That's why I come on these
things. Rich, if you want to come on every week...
for me, dude, you know what I mean? Like, you're my shrink. You don't even know.
If you want to come on every week, Rich, I'll make Tunn just do production so he gets it right. Of course, we are live on all the usual channels within the YouTube. Thank you very much for watching and commenting along. And obviously on the Spotify as well. We are going to try and do something as we go into episode 50. We're going back to the episode numbers. We realize the season thing's kind of weird because we don't know where to end it. So for season 50, if necessary, I'll stick my hand in my own pocket and figure out something just to get some giveaways going for a podcast. I have a few ideas, but again, thank you all so much for watching. This has been Spitfire, and we'll see you next time.